Hey guys, just wanted to show off my Storm Sorcerer build. This is just kind of like a preview. Um, the first character that I beat the game solo in was Storm Sorcerer, but this was like way back when, and now that Honor Mode is out and a lot of changes have come in, I wanted to do an updated version of the build. So you can see me setting up. So the build, this is level 7. This is when the build really starts to take off. And I've left the Gith fight until later because it's actually a really, really tough fight to fight in this way. I think that if you're not using some kind of abuse, for example, like stealth abuse or darkness abuse or something along those lines, it's very hard to beat this game solo, especially if you're like tanking and like meeting your enemies like up front and personal, right? Right, so over here you can just see that I'm grouping enemies up, standard way of opening. And so when I Shocking Grasp, what's happening here is that it's triggering Heart of the Storm, which then triggers um, my Luminous Armor is triggering on all of these enemies because the Heart of the Storm triggers Callous Glow Ring, which puts holy damage on all of the radiant damage on all of the little bits, right? So it's very good at kind of making sure everyone's attack rolls are really low. And then something else that you're going to see here that it does really well is that it's really good at reverberating enemies on their turns, which cause them to miss the rest of their turns. Because if an enemy falls prone during their turn, then their turn immediately ends. And this is something that the build does really well. So, like, you'll see that sometimes there are people who hit me melee or ranged who will trigger reverberation and immediately end their turns. There's also enemies who walk away from my character who trigger the opportunity attack Shocking Grasp, which I think right now for me per turn, Shocking Grasp probably generates like 8 or 9 reverberation stacks on a single enemy when I use it. Yeah, that's why you're seeing so many triggers of random little things, I guess. And also, this build is super dependent on Kill the Weak, the Illithid spell, because it is something that triggers every time you deal damage to individual units, and this build deals lots and lots of little bits of damage to large groups of enemies just by using cantrips. So it doesn't really use that many spell slots to begin with. So, as you can see, this was a very strong tanking kind of class, and if I ever go into like the build explanation for what's going on here, there's a lot of cross interaction between a lot of skills and items here that make this possible, essentially. Also, at this point, you'll notice that I'm gonna run straight to the other room. As a sorcerer, I always pick extended spell and twin spell. And my last spell slot is usually quickened or distant spell. I think that it's kind of unimportant. I find quicken spell to be very cost inefficient. It takes like 3 sorcery points, and all you get is like a different like big spell, which you also have to spend a spell slot on. But extend spell is something I love to use with haste or like concentration spells, and it allows me to get many combats out of just a single use of haste. So you can see here that I am still on 11 turns of haste, even though I just use it to fight the other people. And that means I can conserve my level 3 and level 4 spell slots for counter spell, which is super important if you are playing solo and not abusing another combat mechanic, or just like, kiting people away, like killing them. Like if you're not doing that, you need to be able to counterspell enemies. I think in order to live through this game. Oh yeah, and here I kind of just like, I'm not really sure what's happening here. Like I don't know why these grenades are doing so much damage, but they absolutely get wrecked when they've been grouped up. But if I'm not using supplies, I can just Shocking Grasp people to death. It still does a crack load of damage, and yeah, it constantly knocks people over. I've got the ring, this amulet from the mimic in Ketheric Thorm's room as well, which which causes enemies to have daze, which is really useful as well because I primarily use Shocking Grasp, and that, and then if they don't have any dexterity modifier on their armor, it just makes it easier and easier to hit. Unfortunately, this round as well, I didn't get Auntie Ethel's hair because I don't know, she just went out and killed herself. I don't know, it was really dumb. So I don't have as much charisma as I would like, but the build still works pretty well. Double dashing over here to get the most out of my haste. Gonna go invis, just to kind of be able to set up my minor illusion because it doesn't break your invis for some reason. And I shouldn't have been in turn mode here because like I'm much better at gauging where enemies should or shouldn't be outside of turn-based mode. You can see over here the other units didn't walk for whatever reason, so I need to put a minor illusion closer to the units that don't walk. So I'm going to put it over here. That way that everyone can be grouped up, and then I can obliterate them with my Heart of the Storm pieces. Things. So for this, it's quite important that you open with something that requires a bonus action, because you can't trigger effects like radiating or reverberation. I can't remember if you can trigger radiating orb, but anyways, Heart of the Storm won't trigger things and cause a bunch of debuffs if the game hasn't started yet. You would have lost your action when you started. I'm also trying out using Shatter and Thunder spells because Heart of the Storm also has a Thunder edition thing as well. But it seems strong, but I do know that it doesn't trigger as many debuffs. I know that it doesn't trigger reverberation on all of the enemies for some reason. But they're dying, and I haven't done enough testing to figure out if they're dying faster or slower than when I just use Shocking Grasp. So, I mean, that's still something I need to test. But that's why this is more of a preview rather than like the actual build. Because I still don't know how everything works, but I know that it works. I really need to use my level 1 and level 2 spell slots a little bit more. You can see that I've barely used any of it. This seems kind of inefficient. And you can see from the build, 6 Sorcerer 1 Cleric just for the armor proficiencies and basically all of the reverb.